Okay, this is the Board of Richland County Commissioners. It's 10:30. We are back in session, joined by Judge Kinley and Mr. Bumpus, and we'll talk about the juvenile court budget and juvenile detention budget. And Judge or Mr. Bumpus, will let you go right ahead and get started.
All right. I think basically it's pretty straightforward. We have a few anomalies in our expense lines. We've got some computer equipment that is aged out. In fact, we're still on thin ice on a couple of our servers, so there's some expense associated with the replacement of those. We're looking at an uptick in residential treatment expenses in anticipation that we'll get back to more pace after COVID. And that also affects clinical assessments and some other lines. And that, I guess I would ask the board if you have any questions about the board.
So we've lost, I'm trying to track, we've lost some counties, correct? You have in your introduction letter, which is very nice. Thank you for that. We've lost our contract with Knox County, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So what has that done in terms of juveniles we're seeing in the detention facility, caseload impact, et cetera? What's the ripple effect of losing Knox County?
Well, essentially, they rented 2 beds from us, whether or not they used them or not. So it was a very sweet deal. And that loss is probably close to $65,000 a year in revenue. Judge McKinley did just reach out to Judge Nixon in Knox County, and we offered him a lesser rate to come back to us for the first year. So we're trying to get that business recouped. But caseload wise, I mean, they handle their own cases, obviously. So it's just detainment. We've seen a drop off in all the counties that we contract with. They just don't have the caseload right now with the pandemic.
County they've cut theirs in half also. Most of them are not that far.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a 36.7% drop in.
Yeah.
Oh,
In that line item, yeah.
With that being said, so we've lost revenue, cases are going down. Help from a budgeting perspective. If I look at, we're talking court now. We haven't got the your salary request for 2022, knowing we've lost Knox and Marion has gone down, which means we have less caseload, is a 12% increase from 2020. Help us understand, while revenues over that same time are about the same. You had a 2020 actual of 970. Your anticipated 2022 revenues 1032. And I'm going back 2021 because you got to go back more than 1 year, but we also had a 27 pay period. But your 2020 actual salaries in the court was 1,898,252.32.
Mm-hmm.
Your request for losing juveniles and caseloads are consistent or going down is 12% higher than 2020.
Yeah, 12.6.
Yeah.
We've added 2 new positions. We had a burgeoning caseload in truancy areas. So we added another a school, what we call a school engagement specialist. The good news is that is 100% funded by our DYS grants. Yes. And the same with we added the director of assessments and mentoring, and that position is also paid for by a reclaim grant.
Okay. So, but then the revenues are basically consistent with those 2 positions covered when we see more of a increase in revenues?
Well, we've taken a hit in the board and care area. But if you go down to the revenues to the transfers in, the reclaim grant has gone from $562,000 to $632,000. So we have a substantial increase.
Which two positions on your personal service schedule then are, were the add-ons then?
I think it's Klein.
One second. I don't show Klein. It is, okay. So there's two Kleins.
Yeah, the first one there, the education engagement specialist,
That's 46,000.
and the other one would be Johnson. A couple
Ken
of lines
Johnson.
above that for where it says mentor.
Even say that's 54,000.
Engagement specialist at Jason.
It's 100,000 even.
Chris Klein.
Who's Jason?
Jason is he's a
CASA?
volunteer coordinator in our CASA program.
I see. Okay.
That position, by the way, is paid by our VOCA grant.
That,
You got it. At your 12.6 down to 6.3.
that's 6.7%. Okay, so that, much of that is the additional positions add.
The other part is probably attempting to compensate individuals at a higher level in order to keep them. It's a significant part of what we're trying to do as well, to maintain competitiveness. So people will stay or so that people will want to come, whether it's in our, particularly in our detention facility, but elsewhere. We've had individuals, I guess I don't want to give the name necessarily, but our chief deputy clerk received an offer, something else that was available to her.
Oh,
So we increased her pay in order to make sure that we held on to her.
Okay.
And in fact, I think it was another, do you remember where? Did she get an offer from somebody else?
Jen did, and so did Jalissa.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Alyssa's leaving?
No,
She's not leaving, but we increased her pay in anticipation or to fend off somebody else trying.
I'll add her. I like her.
Yeah, I do too.
She's good.
He's my right-hand person.
She is good.
Looking down some of the expenses, residential treatment. That you've got less people in residence, I assume.
We do, but we're anticipating, like I say, caseloads to come back. So actually that carved off about, if you compare that with the budget we submitted in May, I think we took about $35,000 off of there.
Well, also looking back at 18. And that was even higher.
Yeah, yeah.
Expense.
Repaying, yeah. Residential treatment.
I think we've also seen some significant increase in serious offenses. And those serious offenses are often going to result in individuals being sent to other institutions. And those are expensive on a daily basis. We're trying to avoid sending anybody to DYS. Because pretty much everybody wants to avoid sending youth there because that is the most serious youth who are probably going to get trained in how to be more serious in their offenses. So DYS is not a good place to send people, but we can send youth to community correctional facilities that are around the state, and those are expensive. So there's one in Columbus that we've used, also one in Massillon that we've used. And those will go along with instances maybe where we have youth that are engaged in gun activity. Make sure the community is kept safe. So that may require moving kids. It may require holding them in detention for a while, but then also moving them and being held in other places.
I think I see where Boys Town, we've expanded out there also.
We have, and that's a significant expense.
Yeah, generally those facilities run about $200 a day. Of course, it's the treatment programming that's affiliated.
Ask about VOCA revenue. That seems to be volatile.
Yeah, that's a,
19, it was 240,000. Now you're less than half.
that ebb and flows, Cliff, with whoever's in the White House.
Oh.
It's a federal grant.
Coming back too.
And then, yeah, I just read a piece that they anticipate a lot of money to be put in those streams for the, so we're kind of anticipating that next year in the 2023 budget, we're going to show a big boost in that VOCA grant funds.
I realize you don't have control over it, but I was noticing the numbers declining.
Same thing when Gary came in, Cliff, if you recall, that was VOCA revenue that they thought was taken away. Now it's coming back. So that VOCA, we're at the whim of whoever's in office at several levels at the VOCA. So if we're just looking straight, I know there is inflation, so I'm not naive to that. You're at about a 13.4% increase in expenses from 2020 to 2022.
I'm showing 15.
I mean, yeah, like 15.5 maybe, right? 13 to 15%.
15.3. Yep.
While revenues are not keeping in line with that. And that's somewhat substantial. I don't know, we might have to put Judge McKinley in with the sheriff's office and Chuck here, I think, right? We have a hide your wallet list.
Is that right? You just made the grade.
I jokingly said to Judge Nell yesterday when I was looking at her budget, and they're relatively small. She must be on the McKinley plan. I told her, joking. I was laughing. Her
We've got some hefty expenses. We've got 2 servers that are running on almost 8 years old. It's recommended, depending on who you talk to, every 3 to 5 years a computer server should be replaced. So we're almost double what we should be on those 2. And to get those, they're called hypervisors. They're virtual servers so that you move from less server units that you have to replace on an ongoing basis to using virtual servers, but they're a little more expensive to put in place at the onset. So $19,000 wrapped up just in moving to those 2 units.
Tammy Worthman, when she was here with the other judges, mentioned that they were doing something that servers would not have to be replaced as often. So maybe she's talking about the same thing.
Yeah. We've got a new IT fella there at the court. And so he's identified that some of this stuff has been kind of neglected from the past. And
I had a nickel for every time an IT person said, "Oh, this hasn't been well maintained. We need to upgrade." Technology is supposed to make things more efficient and cheaper, but that is the biggest.
That was the biggest myth. That started 30 years ago.
yeah.
Well, that'd be 40.
So what do you guys use? I know we're starting to do wage scales, and our office did wage scales for all 9 departments that report to us. We wanted to be the leaders in the wage scales. If we're going to ask other elected offices to come on, there's going to be 4 elected offices in the next round. Particularly, we're focusing on general fund for the most part to come on board. So in the absence of us getting to juvenile court yet, what do you guys use to determine your appropriate wage scales?
I look at our market, our backyard. Of course, and it kind of depends on the position. If I'm looking at a detention worker, I'm looking at probably more of this market, who I have to compete with, that kind of
So
thing.
who would be in that market for the detention? Let's say a security personnel in the detention facility.
Any job that might require a high school education. Here's what we run into. We have detention workers. And I think, Daryl, you had the question, like detention salaries have gone up. We had to move our starting rate was only $12. So at this point in time, you can work $12 as a detention worker, deal with unruly kids, get spit on, do restraints and all that, or you can go flip hamburgers at McDonald's and get better hours. I mean, you have to be.
I do know that 12 is low, but the flip side is you're not getting the benefits of
12
pension.
now, about 14 now.
Yeah, and that's appropriate. But what I'm saying is it's not total apples to apples because the cost, as we all know, of health insurance and pension But we hear your point. 12 is low. Look, we brought our kennel attendance up to 13.
I just saw a survey, a statewide survey. The average for detention workers right now is $15.80 an hour across the state.
Is that juvenile detention?
Yes.
Also
No, juvenile
adult
detention.
Okay.
And I took out Cuyahoga County because they're off the scale. I mean, their starting rate is $24 an hour for a juvenile detention worker.
Runs Cuyahoga County.
Not Mearsvero and Banks.
They have a lot of F1s and F2s. That's all that they hold.
Yeah.
Nobody below that. So they have very serious offenders and a lot of them. So it's a very risky place. In fact, I think didn't they have a standoff a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah.
I think
in the
there were some
facility.
people that got into administrative area. So got some risks there that we don't have.
Had a lot of issues with that facility for 5 to 10 years.
But even taking them out, it's still above 15.
Oh,
The figure that you gave is.
oh yeah, it's 15.
Without considering Cuyahoga, it's
Right.
still above 15.
Right.
Starting detention worker.
Mhm.
Okay.
And other than that, we look at a lot of statewide salary surveys, those kinds of things. Different associations offer those. So we get an idea what the average probation officers paid, that kind of thing.
You said
Has had a ton of interviews that have turned into people that have said that they'll take the job, then they don't take the job. So we've had a number of no-shows, either no-showing for,
Heard that from a lot of.
that's not
no showing for jobs.
It's being ghosted. They have a term for it.
well. If we were younger, you and I would have probably been ghosted a lot by the ladies in our school days. So thankfully, we didn't have to come through with cell phones, or we would have been ghosted a lot. I think maybe not you.
Let's don't compare your high school days.
Marty didn't ghost you though.
No,
What's the average? You had said, hey, it vacillates anywhere from 10 to 15 at any given time in the detention facility. Do we have metrics on the average number of juveniles that are in our detention facility?
Running right about 12 year to date.
Okay. So how many for the year though? Besides the average, how many do we get a year? Different juveniles.
I don't have an answer for that, Tony. I mean, our average daily population is 11.9 right now. Don't ask me how that one kid's not quite all there. But, yeah, I don't know like how many actually circulate. I could get you that number.
I'm just trying to put, look, and I do agree it's important to spend on the youth, and I'm not trying to boil it down to humanity, talking figures here. The more you can spend and save an individual while they're younger, and I know this is crude in the sense we're talking dollars and cents, you save a lot more as an individual may get older and still remain in the system, whether it's assistance, the penal system, et cetera, et cetera. So that, juvenile is where you try to save individuals. But I was just trying to kind of put a cost for the amount of juveniles we have on an annual basis.
The problem with it,
I think you'd have to look at it not just as the number of youth that are in detention, but also the number of youth that are on probation.
That's true.
The youth that are on probation, of course, they have supervision,
Right.
probation officers, and that the whole goal there is to get them on a good path and not reoffending. That was even the idea behind the mentoring program that we began. Was there's a significant problem with a lack of parental or father involvement with youth. And so basically Mr. Johnson is in charge of mentoring, and he is recruiting mentors. And I believe that is a funded, is it the VOCA grant that provides reclaim? And so that is covered, but that was the idea behind it, was if we can get these kids with somebody who is successful, who's going to encourage them to get on a good path, just another influence who is not there as somebody that's there to punish them, but somebody that's there to be like a mentor. That's why it's called a mentor program.
I forgot, I didn't think about that. Thank you, Your Honor. It's not just
Just about 150 youth on probation right now. We've been as high, I think when I took over, we were about 220. But with the downturn in the number of cases that have been filed, we've had fewer kids that are on
So
probation.
let's just say
That's
it's
a number.
doing a better job than Judge Spawn.
Maybe not. Pass that on.
Tell me on the record.
Tony. There you go. I'll let him know.
I think that too goes along with the increasing emphasis that's put on truancy. And that's a trend in our business, if you will, but I mean, I've always believed that that's the first sign of a kid in trouble when they's,
Karen Cannon
So
would
it's
call it
almost-
the canary in the coal mine.
yeah.
So kind of know what's coming or what's in there that can't yet be seen. And so actually involved in the truancy cases, and that was the reason why we involved school engagement specialist, Mr. Klein, in that, just to make sure that we're getting kids back into school, because COVID was definitely rough. We had probably a fourfold increase in the number of truancy cases during the COVID period.
Much.
4 times.
Yeah.
4 times the number. So you had a lot of kids that wouldn't ordinarily have any problems, but because of those circumstances, they
had an excuse.
Bottom line.
so.
I don't have any more.
Yeah. We're appreciate the work and effort to get this all together. And, you know, we don't know where we're going to be until we see what the revenue from the auditor's office is going to be. And until we find out that, where we're at, but it's this we can start with and get back with you if assuming if we have to.
Okay.
We've been very pleased with the budgets from everyone so far. I want to knock on wood, who knows yet.
Good.
But one of the things we will be doing is looking at 2020 as a benchmark, not just 2021 on the expense side because of the 27 days.
Yeah.
So it's understanding some natural growth in expenses and revenues from 2020 to 2022 as opposed to just 2021.
Yeah, well, we've had a couple of things with skew our patterns, you know, with the pandemic and the 27 pay year. And
So, but no, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
But they may have questions.
You got any questions from the media?
Yeah, just one. What does that VOCA stand for? I realize it's a federal grant, but
victim of crimes assistance.
okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
10:53 and we will adjourn till coming back 11:30.
Okay.
Bob, send pics of your, please, question mark.
It is 11:30. This is the Board of Richland County Commissioners, and we have been joined by Judge Bunnell and Miss Patton to go over their budget for next year. So tell us about your budget next year, or anything that's out of the only thing I seen start with, spend a lot more money in contracted services, and curious as to what that's for.
Right. Well, if you want to start with contracted service.
Oh, you start wherever you want to.
Okay. Well, the contracted services is really a change in our budget because we are going to upgrade our computer system that we have, our case management system. As you may know, we are really the only court that does not have an online public availability to look at your cases that are public there. So this would give us the ability to put those cases online so that people can see their filings that are public. I mean, we have many things that are not, such as adoptions, but this would give us the ability to put them online. It would update the system. We have a Henshin case management system that we've not been updated since 2008. And we could also do e-filing through this system if we choose to do that, both of which we would very much like to do, give the public to see, their cases, because it is, as it stands now, if you want to know where your case is, you have to call the clerk, and the clerk has to send you a copy of the docket. This takes up the time of the clerk's course, and it isn't good because the public isn't able to see what's going on easily. That is what that would be. We would be purchasing the system upgrade, and then the annual service would go up. I forget how much it is a month, $1,500. But those monies, if necessary, we've been kind of waiting because the Supreme Court has repeatedly said they may be entertaining more motions from courts and requests for courts for upgrades in technology and being able to give us money to do that. So we're kind of waiting to see if they were going to offer that so we could apply.
What about your secret slush funds that I always
Well,
talk about?
that is what we would be using because we do have money.
And not a slush fund, Al, who's
No, it's not literally a slush fund. It's our court fund.
Listening.
illegal outside general fund.
No, we would be using court funds. We of course have a court fund called the computer fund, which is for both computer programs. Well, it's for all kinds of things: computer programs, computers themselves, hardware, software, but also for our legal research services too. So under that fund, we would have the money to use to do that upgrade if we cannot get money from the Supreme Court. One of the reasons we haven't done it already, honestly, is because when we talked to Henshin about the upgrade, because so many other places had received money from the Supreme Court last year to do upgrades, they are already backed up enough that they said, even if you sign, an agreement with us today, we couldn't even get you until spring of 2022. So with that, we decided that we would wait and see if other funds might come available before we expend these funds. But those funds would come from our computer fund to pay for that. So while you see that we're doing that, it isn't additional money that's requested from commissioners from the general fund. We're just showing you that that's where that money is coming from.
All those funds.
Get there.
Well, and we have other things. I mean, not to get off the topic too much, but we have a legal guidance program that we provide to the community so that if someone calls and is trying to do something pro se, such as an estate, our clerks can't answer their legal questions, of course, and we can't really guide them. So we have attorneys that volunteer their time to sit
2 times a month.
on a specific day, time periods that we set.
Yeah, that's cool.
So there are several attorneys that do it for us. Frank Benham has done it for us. Let's see who else.
Dick Thompson's done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, gonna bring him.
Yeah.
Several.
Right.
Do
And
that.
we do pay them something for their time. And it's about $600 a month that we spend for those 2 days. And that gives the public the opportunity to come in, talk with an attorney to figure out, do I need somebody to represent me in this? Is this more I can take on than I need to? Or can I do it myself? And if so, how do I do that? How do I fill out these forms? What documents do I need? So that is something we pay for.
It's a 45-minute appointment with an attorney.
It gives the public something and helps to reduce the stress on our clerks who frequently get called to answer questions that they shouldn't be answering. In addition to that, there's also, of course, the volunteer guardianship program that we pay for. Really what we pay is 2 volunteer guardianship programs here in the community that we're able to utilize, who provide volunteer services to wards who need guardians, who don't have a family member that can do it, or, don't want to do it, or it's beyond their ability. Catholic Charities and Mid-Ohio Guardianship. So we also provide them a stipend at the end of the year because they provide those services to our community. So those that's about $1,000 each. We pay for that as well through our, I think in the past, he transferred money from Indigent Guardianship Fund into the Special Project Fund. But you could do it either way. You could pay it from Indigent Guardianship or from Special Projects. Both of those things our court pays for through our monies that are court funds. So with that, really the budgetary changes, other than the change that you mentioned, Daryl, with respect to the computer fund monies that we're using to upgrade our system. Our salaries are asking for a 3% increase with each employee. In addition to that, really the only thing you're seeing that makes it a little bit more money than last year is we're requesting a salary for a bailiff because we don't have a bailiff.
You're asking, right, I was going to get to that. Thank you, Your Honor. You are asking for a half increase in an FTE or full-time equivalent, correct? And you just would like a part-time bailiff?
I think we were actually asking for full-time.
Thought I saw.
Yeah.
You reduced, hold on, let me double check here. Yeah, but you're reducing the hours of the magistrate to kind of defray that.
No, the difference, honestly, the difference in the number you're seeing is because there's an employee that's different from last year's salaries. So so last year's budget for salaries was $370,000. Our actual, if you add those two numbers together for 2021 is $340,000
Right.
because there's a different employee and that salary is no longer being paid. So that drops the number a little bit. So when you add back in that bailiff full-time 35, so what's estimated is 35,360.
Let me rephrase. In Judge
Okay.
Mayer's budget,
Yes.
he had thought it'd be wise to make the magistrate full-time to help with the transition. So that wasn't your
No.
budget. So let me rephrase in that respect.
You are correct. Part-time, so it'd be a part-time magistrate as it is currently and a bailiff.
You really need a bailiff?
Well, I'll tell you,
I'm teasing.
we do need
I
to
know you do.
know that. We have mental health cases and
Yes, ma'am.
those can cause problems on the floor and we don't want to do that. In addition to that,
Rapidly.
one of our very valued employees, Christy Evans, is able to and will retire in 2020. And she is the only person who has the ability to carry weapons. She's the only person that has the training that a bailiff would have. So I would really like to get somebody on board who can take over that position. She also serves notices, particularly on guardianships and other things. She serves people. So that would be also something the bailiff might be able to do for us. And she's our court investigator. So those things are going to go away for us. So we need to get a transition in place. And we'd like to be able to do that earlier rather than later.
If she's not available, then one of us all have to kind of fill in that bailiffing role. So we would like a bailiff.
I have no more questions. Excellent job, Ms. Patton.
Is that the going rate for a bailiff? 17?
I did, yes. I actually got information from the auditors. Bailiffs in our,
That's a reasonable compensation.
yeah, it's average, yeah.
Quite a difference. Budgets, preparation and presentation, so thank you.
Anything that we should tweak?
It was great.
Okay.
The last individual who did the budget, we had asked many times to submit it in the format in which you submitted it, what we had asked, and was not done. So thank you.
Which complicated our job.
Could be difficult to read.
So it was excellent. Thank you.
And just so you do not know what our income, our revenues are going to be.
Sure.
So we don't know where we stand on this, but
Sure.
We'll certainly talk with you when we get closer to knowing where we're at.
Okay.
Appreciate the effort and the good work, and welcome to county government.
Right.
Thank you. We
I
appreciate
do-
your time.
I do have a question. So with RFPs, which I know that there's a couple of different sites where the listings are. So just in
What do you mean by RFPs in the listings?
like for, say like the scanning project that we had listed or anything that we may be looking for in the future. Is there I think there's what, 2 different sites that you look
They
at?
give you
for-
ones that have been approved.
You mean the GSA?
Yes.
It was Rachel Troyer in that. She's our central services and she oversees. She'll be able to point you in those right directions for that.
Okay, but I was thinking there was another one and I wasn't sure what that was. So, okay, I'll get with you.
I think there is a second one. And
Yeah, Rachel knows, she handles all that.
Okay,
We'll lead you in the right direction.
okay.
Okay.
Always good to see my favorite bad now attorney.
well, thank you.
You say that now. I have that in recording. So
Oh, I said it to be recorded.
On the record.
There was intent in that statement.
Do you have any questions?
Al.
Al, I'm sorry.
No, not for the judge.
Okay. Well, my apologies for misnaming. And Al, now, is Tony still the funniest, or have I moved up?
No, I think you've moved up, Daryl, because
Thank you.
Tony's kind of backslid.
Yeah.
I've dropped in the funny rankings.
You've
Okay.
backslid. You haven't said anything unusually witty lately.
Ooh, ow.
Notice I
Oh,
used the
Stick
word
and beat, man.
unusual.
I'll have to whip up something for the
Have to
2
be
o'clock
witty.
session then, I guess.
It is 11:43 and we're going to stand in recess until 2:00. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Yeah. Uncle, you may know him. He has a PhD, Dr. Ray Garendi, because I think you're pretty devout faith. And he's got a PhD. And his wife literally copied his thesis for her grad school exam, and she got a C.
It is now 2:00. This is the Board of Richland County Commissioners. We are now in session, and we're here to introduce, well, first we have to approve it, Carl, but a couple new employees to help us out. And first of all, I want Rick and Sue from the EMA. You guys have done a great job. We appreciate it. Make sure Joe talks to you, Sue. And Rick, we really appreciate everything. It's been done so well the last few years. So thank you. And we want to get the formal part of this done. So I would entertain a motion to hire Joe. And you want to read the press? No, we gotta get him in there first. So we wanted Joe Patecki.
Okay.
For EMA. Do them one at a time.
Yeah. At this time, I would like to make a motion that Richland County hire Mr. Joseph Patricki to be our next county EMA director. The starting date would be November 11th, Stacy, even though that's a holiday. So your first day, well, both of you gentlemen will be a holiday, although Mr. Kelly already working with us. The salary will be 51,826 with a 6-month probationary period.
Second that motion.
Commissioner Banks?
Yes.
Commissioner Barrow?
Yes.
Commissioner Mears?
Yes.
Okay. And concerning Andrew Keller, we would like to hire him. Can I get a motion to hire Andrew for the position of county administrator?
This time I'd like to make a motion to hire Mr. Andrew Keller at a salary of $90,000 a year with the same starting date as of November 11th. A good portion of his salary will be reimbursable through the Rescue Plan Act. So Stacy, you and I will get with that and Mr. Keller, but that will at least be his salary. We'll initially note that funding in the general fund to be reimbursed by the American Rescue Plan Act.
And I'll second that motion.
Commissioner Banks?
Yes.
Commissioner Barrow?
Yes.
Commissioner Mears?
Yes.
This time we would like to, Mr. Bureau, would you read the press release?
So as soon as this meeting is over, we're going to send this out, gentlemen. And Cliff's going to say something about Joe and I'll say something about Andrew. We're very, very excited today to bring both of you on, had the opportunity to work both with you. We've just been excited, but I'll let Cliff speak to you, Joe. So here's what the press release says. The Richland County Board of Commissioners formally announces the additions of Joseph D. Patricki and Andrew S. Keller effective November 12, 2021. Joe will join the county as the director of EMA, replacing Rick Evans, who retires at the end of the year. Andrew will move from the Richland County Prosecutor's Office to become the Richland County Administrator, to our knowledge, first ever county administrator, where he will completely administer the county's federal stimulus funding, as well as working with the board on budget, contracting, and grant matters. Joe is widely known in the community, particularly amongst safety services groups, from his time spent as the City of Mansfield's Assistant Chief of Police. Joe spent 25 years with the Mansfield Police Department, where he earned great respect for his leadership and dedication to safety service. His experience with emergency response situations at multiple levels of law enforcement makes him a natural fit to lead the county's emergency management agency. Andrew will bring to his new role one of the area's finest legal minds to help Richland County navigate federal procurement laws that govern the use of more than $23 million in American Rescue Plan Act funding. Andrew started his career in service with Richland County in 2011 in the prosecutor's office as an assistant prosecuting attorney, and he became the county's chief civil attorney in 2013. He spent the last 8 years in that role serving as the lead counsel for the county's elected offices and agencies, along with assisting and representing the county's townships. The commissioners would also like to extend their best wishes in retirement to Rick Evans, who spent a career in service. Rick's tireless work in the Shelby area following the tornado in 2019 was invaluable to the Shelby community and the people of Richland County. The board thanks Rick for his commitment to the safety of Richland County residents. And before we all clap, Sue, I intentionally left you out because we're going to see if you're going to stick around a little while longer. That'll be a discussion between you two. So we didn't forget you. That was absolutely intentional. So now I will shut up and say, welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
What we'd like to hear from you. And
Yeah.
Start with Joe.
Yes.
Joe, why don't you introduce the people that are come here to see this event?
Yeah. So I brought my wife, Amy. We've been married 12 years now. And I also brought my former boss, Chief Porch, and my replacement, who's doing an outstanding job over there, AC Bamman. But, you know, I was talking to Andrew and just telling him a little bit about how this all came about. And, you know, I'm really honored and humbled by the commissioners, you know, wanting me to take on this task. You know, I got big shoes to fill, Rick, you know, and I think my experience being at Mansfield PD and a lot of the incidences that I was involved in has made a good solid foundation for where I can build upon. And I'm looking forward to working with Rick here. I've had a lot of great mentors in my career, Chief Porch being one of them, Chief Coons, Chief Scambalone. And I don't see a reason why you will not be a great mentor to me for the next 6 weeks. And I'm looking forward to it. And I want to thank the board for their faith in bringing me on. And I look forward to represent. So thank you. Thanks again.
Happy to have you. Thank you. Andrew, introduce your family to us, please.
I'm just honored to be here and so honored, but have my wife Amy and my oldest son Peter and my daughter Abby and youngest son Paul, and my faith and my family is the centerpiece of my life, and you guys all know that, and so that's what drives me and motivates me every day. So totally energized that they can be a part of this special day for us. It's a bit of a loss for words, which the commissioners can testify to.
Lawyer can say that?
Very rare for
Andrew, we
me.
know.
An anomaly on this early juncture in this journey, but I am very appreciative and very honored to be asked to serve in this way for this Board of Commissioners. We've worked together on so many projects, and this is just moving me literally one block closer. I'm going to be across the hall from the commissioners instead of across the street. And looking forward to plugging in, getting started, hit the ground running day one. And I'm honored to be a part of the commissioners' team environment, mentality in Richland County, and it's exciting to me to be a part of that. So thank you, and I look forward to working with side by side with each and every one in this room. Joe, congratulations, and of course all of you guys, and so thank you.
Well, thank you. We are so happy with both of you to be working with us. And I look forward to the next few years of, just for me, a few years, for you, for who knows. At this time, I would ask the press if they have any questions. We'll start with Carl.
I'm good, sir. Thank you.
All right. Is Al on the phone? Al, you have any questions?
Yeah, for Andrew to start.
Ooh.
You've been working in the legal division, but you've also been, working on civil type stuff. Do you see you're taking this position as a change or as an upgrade of what you've been doing?
Al, it's certainly an extension of what I've been doing, but it's going to be a challenge and a stretch for me as I delve more into administrative matters. There will still be a legal side to it for sure. But the prosecutor's office as the statutory legal advisor for the county commissioners will continue in that role as well. So will there be some overlap, especially in the area of contracts? Absolutely, but that's going to be a benefit to both offices.
And I know the commissioner said earlier today that, one thing that they were going to have you working on was, the ins and outs of ARPA. What are some other things you see that need work on, or that you'd like to do, or things like that?
Well, Al, what has always fascinated me about county government is how it's multifaceted. There are so many essential government functions that are administered at the county level. And certainly grant funding is part of that. Procurement is part of that. Contracts is part of that. And certainly budgets is a part of that. So the budget piece is going to be newer territory for me, although I'm thankfully familiar with the budgeting process, both from working in the prosecutor's office as well as being honored to be on the Board of Elections in Ashland County. So I've had a lot of exposure to county budgeting, but not as much as some of these other areas such as contracts and grant administration. So for me, probably the biggest piece in making this decision was the fact that I know this Board of Commissioners, and we have a shared philosophy, a shared vision when it comes to handling the county resources. We don't, I call it a stewardship mentality. So in other words, county government, our county commissioners don't look at our county funds that sit in the county treasury as the commissioner's money or as quote unquote government money. They look at it as your money and my money, the county's money. And every decision we make is through the lens of, are we doing the right thing for the county with the county's resources? Is it an essential government function? We're a relatively narrow form of government, and we are respectful of that. And so that's something I'm very serious about. And I know this Board of Commissioners is very serious about. So it just makes this such a wonderful partnership because we have a shared vision.
Okay, I've got a question for commissioners. In listening to the job description that you have for the county administrator, sounds like some of this will be overlapping what Kelly Christensen is doing. Is the creation of the administrator's position and the hiring of Andrew a precursor to when Kelly might be retiring?
No, they're two separate jobs, and we're going to keep Mr. Keller so busy that him and Kelly may get together and discuss things as they would if Mr. Keller was still across the street. But there's very little to any overlapping at this point. Don't see that happening. I think both jobs are so important that that just can't happen. We have to have, I'm sure that whenever Kelly needs legal advice or whatever, that's where she'll go first. And but I think we got two great people in those positions, and we're going to use both of them to for the taxpayers, as Andrew said before. We do this for the taxpayers, and those two are people that do it for them.
Now, Kelly does nothing with the American Rescue Plan Act, zero. Andrew will be our subject matter expert and our lead on that. And Kelly also does nothing by way of going out and seeking additional revenues for the county by way of grants or what other means are out there. So the answer to that question is outside conversations where their job duties could potentially overlap. The main functions of both positions have zero overlap, which is why we're bringing Andrew on.
Okay. In regards to what he's going to be doing, do you think him taking over some of these responsibilities will make it a little easier for other department heads, for instance, earlier today, JJ Bettinger was talking about, grants that, his department gets for operating. Judge McKinley did the same thing. Do you think, with Andrew looking at some of that, do you think that will help in those areas, or will some of those responsibilities still stay with the individual department?
I guess what Andrew and I talked about this, Alan, without sounding a little cliche, he really does have a blank canvas with respect to the grant funding piece. So I think the answer to that question is ultimately yes. How that truly shakes out, we don't know. His number one priority, and I already have a list for him when it comes with the Rescue Plan Act, is we're meeting Friday morning at 8 a.m. I have a list of Rescue Plan Act items we've been working on and the contacts he will communicate with. As he gets familiar with that, he'll move on to the grant piece where he'll meet with some very well-respected county administrators to kind of understand how they undertake the role of revenue procurement for their counties. So two I have in mind are Dr. Carrie Brown in Fairfield, who is one of the finest county administrators in the state of Ohio, and then Patrick Heron in Wayne County. So the long answer to that is yes. How we go from A to C, we got to figure out how to get to B, but we'll get there. And Andrew can make this job sort of how he sees it, which also I hope makes it exciting for him.
Is that another reason why you picked Andrew? Because he's the type of person who can, take a brand new job like that and kind of shape it?
I think, Al, there's a lot of trust between this board and Andrew Keller. And I think Andrew has respect for us. And I think that was one of the main reasons that we hired him. My past 5 years in working with Andrew, I can consider him very high on many list. And we're happy to have him here. And I think we work well together, the three of us. And Marilyn, when she was here, and Andrew, I think we all work well with Andrew and look forward to doing it.
I wish there was a camera. Andrew will get this when I go over to see Andrew, because I said, hey, I want to do this and don't say no. So the running joke is he always keeps me, being the type A personality that I am, always try to think outside the box. And he's always telling me, no, I can't do it. So before I even, and you guys probably laugh, right? Is that's first response is no. So I'll literally call him and say, hey, I'm coming over, and don't say no because I want to try to do something here. So I wish you could I wish there was video of us arguing with one another in his office. So
No.
And Al, one of the reasons I wanted to get him, because he will say no.
Yeah. So
Okay.
he will be a great balance for us. Yeah, especially for me, I'm just like, don't tell me no, Andrew. So he's a no-brainer choice.
Okay. Now, Tony, I'm asking this question in jest, but with Andrew taking over all these duties, what's going to be left for you to do?
Hey, if you're telling me to relax a little more, I'm all right with that. But we'll look, we're going to stay busy. This was a long time coming. We've talked about this for 3 to 4 years. We now have the funding out there to help pay for that portion of the salary. County administrators who are good are invaluable to their counties. And he uses that word. He's a student of county government to know how much money an excellent county administrator can save for the county and bring in for the county. We go to these symposiums and see these county administrators, and I brought in this grant here and we saved millions of dollars here. And I said, how do we get one of those? Because we're certainly not smart enough, but Mr. Magna Cum Laude is over here. So the answer to that is Richland County is very fortunate to have them.
Now, Joe, I don't want you to be left out. Where do you see EMA going? I know, Rick has gotten some things, caught up that, had been behind. So he's caught up on getting a lot of reports. What direction do you see EMA going?
I see it going in the same direction as Rick has been. I know in discussion with the board here, they want to look at expanding the office out there at People's Hospital, and so I think that's one thing we're going to look at doing. not exactly sure in what capacity that is. We have to sit down and discuss that further, but I don't see it. I don't see any major changes. Continue on the path that Rick has done a good job at.
Okay, is there anything that you see right now in terms of things that need to be done or improving response or communications, anything like that?
That's too early for me to make an assessment on yet until I get in there with working with Rick and seeing exactly what the job entails. Then I'll have a better voice on that.
Al, one of the things that's taking place under Rick, we moved the 911 dispatch into the new area, and that area became part of the LEC, okay, EOC. And Rick and Sue have made great improvements out there, but that's still an ongoing project. It's come a long way, but I'm sure that Joe's going to have to finish that up. I don't think it's going to be done by the time you leave, or will it?
As soon as we get IT in there, it's probably what, 80%, 90% done. Just kind of waiting on getting things hooked up.
Yeah, I think that's all the questions I had.
WMFD, do you have any questions? Okay.
I'd like to make a couple of comments, if I may. I've been commissioner 10 months. I haven't been around that long, and my dealings with Rick have been exceptional. He's an outstanding individual and does an amazing job managing the management agency for Richland County. So my hat's off to you. It's been great working with you, Rick. Having only been here 10 months, I was with the city of Mansfield for 9 years on city council at large and then city council president. And my dealings with Mr. Patricki, I don't have enough superlatives to describe what this gentleman is like. He's intelligent. His character, his judgment, his decision-making is beyond reproach. And this is for both of these gentlemen coming over to Richland County. It's a very, very good day for Richland County. Gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No other.
It is 2:22 and the Board of Commissioners will stand adjourned. Thank you all so much for coming. Appreciate it. Carl.